Hello, everybody out there. This is Kirsten from the German Tarot Association, and I'm very pleased that I'm having Chris Butler with me here today. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
People are not watching yet. We still have a bit of time to get warm here.
That's fine.
They're the first people coming in now.
Hello.
And hello out there. While we're waiting for you to join us, I just quickly introduce Chris. Chris, you are living in Liverpool, right?
I'm living in Liverpool in the UK, yeah.
Exactly. Liverpool in the UK. Chris is a tarot expert of long standing. He started in the early 80s, I think, doing tarot as far as I remember. And he is not only a tarot reader, but he is a teacher. Later, he will talk a bit about his new course he has designed. He is also mainly, I should say, an artist, and he has created 3 decks by now, and he's working on a 4th deck, and today we're going to talk about his decks because they have much to do with tarot and gender, and I always wanted to talk about gender issues, especially since the Modern Witch Tarot came out. Many people know this deck and have bought it. It's quite a great idea, but gender and tarot has before been an issue. For example, Chris Butler has created a gay tarot in 2012. We're going to talk about this, but now I have said enough. People are here. I can talk to you now, Chris.
That's right. Ask away.
Yes, exactly. Tarot and gender, when I suggested to talk about this, you were immediately like, yeah, that's very interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Perhaps you can tell me why you think this is a great idea.
Well, for me, the tarot, it's kind of not just a passion, but it's been a lifesaver for me. Some people will know my background. I'm a gay man, but I didn't come out until my mid-20s, and prior to that I'd been involved in the evangelical church, and I'd been put through quite a lot of religious abuse and gay cure therapy. Thankfully, and for the record, I didn't get straightened out. I'm still here, and I discovered tarot in my teens, and of course when I got involved with the evangelical church, that was literally all taken away from me. That's another story. But my coming out process began with a very significant love affair in my mid-20s, and also with the rediscovery of tarot. The difficulty I had was that I had a huge amount of uncertainty around my self-image and also my gender identity, which I think a lot of gay men would resonate with. Just through working with the cards over a period of time, and particularly through the process of creating the Sun Tarot in my late 30s, I was able to actually really connect with and affirm my gender identity. And through that, it was probably, particularly around the creation of the Sun Tarot, which was a 10-month process, that was when I really came into my own. But that was when I also learned that obviously the characters in a tarot deck, although superficially male and female, represent something much deeper and more profound in terms of gender. And that was my healing journey. It was actually discovering that I could find myself both in the female and the male characters as I saw them on the cards. When I designed the Sun Tarot, I designed a deck for gay men where all of the figures on the cards are male, but the fact that I've replaced the female figures with male ones doesn't, I hope people will see that I wasn't actually trying to undermine their gender identity, but actually just express it in a way that gay men could connect with and also find themselves in, and actually tap those, feminine or masculine qualities in themselves. So So that's something of my take on gender. I mean, it was interesting when you said, "Oh, let's talk about tarot and gender." I thought, how long have you got?
Exactly. Yeah, I thought, as I said, about tarot and gender, especially when I looked at the modern witch tarot, where all the characters are mainly female. I think there are two men in the tarot, and I have to say I was taken aback a bit, because I thought I don't want to live in a world where there's only female characters. But on the other hand, I quite like the idea to have a female emperor sitting next to a female empress, because then I had to think about what's the difference in empress and emperor, basically. And I'm sure, I think we're talking about your empress. Perhaps we can go into this later.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, when the Modern Witch Tarot came out, it put a big smile across my face, because it was actually, when I did the Sun Tarot, I was inspired by two different factors. Two gay decks had emerged by that stage. There was Lee Burston's Gay Tarot, which is published by Lo Scarabeo, and an independently published deck called the Brotherhood Tarot, which was by Patrick Stillman. I was lucky because I was able to befriend both Lee and Patrick, back in the days through the Eclectic Tarot Forum. They were a huge inspiration for me to do the Sun Tarot, but the other thing that inspired me was, you've kind of already seen hints of this with some of the feminist decks. The Mother Peace Tarot was a big inspiration for me, because that was coming from a feminist perspective. The Daughters of the Moon was coming from more of a female perspective. And I felt as if, from a gay perspective, I was adding to that, that particular movement in tarot. But see, when the Modern Witch came out, I thought, oh wow, this is mainstream. It's really challenging people to look. And also, because somebody had said to me a couple of years ago, which I kind of was a bit floored by at the time, they said, are you going to do a lesbian deck? And I'm thinking, well, I'm the last person that could do a lesbian deck. That's
why?
I think because with the Sun Tarot, it really came from the heart. That was from my experience as a man. And I thought, if anybody is going to do a convincing lesbian deck, it has to be somebody for whom that's authentic experience. But again, when the Modern Witch Tarot came out, I thought, this is really interesting, because it's really challenging gender stereotypes in the tarot, and universalizing. I mean, like you said, all of a sudden you were looking at a female emperor, which for me, I mean, looking at a male empress as such in my own deck, actually creating that image really made me sort of go back to the empress and really look for all of those parts of her in myself that were living. And as a result, in creating those cards, I really affirmed the balance of the genders in me, my gender identity, and also my maleness. I was able, a lot of it for me, and I think a lot of gay men have this journey, your masculinity is kind of so battered societally. You're made to feel, certainly when I was growing up in the 80s, you really were made to feel, either like a failed man or less than a man. And so one, it becomes very difficult to connect with your maleness, but one of the things I've also found with a lot of my gay friends is that, we connect with a sort of parody of femininity very well. We will, gay men do drag brilliantly. We'll send womanhood up. We'll do an exaggerated version of it, but actually what we really struggle to connect with is our gentler feminine side inside, because we've very often been put down so often for expressing that. So yeah, I mean, for me, creating a male empress was about reconnecting with myself, and then seeing a deck like the Modern Witch doing something similar, actually in the other direction, is really encouraging. Because for me, it does, male and female are symbolic in the tarot. They represent, on one level, yes, they do represent male and female, but on another level, they go so much deeper, pointing towards, to me, the higher principles of masculine and feminine.
Yeah, I was wondering when I thought about this subject because when we do tarot readings, there's a page there or the I don't know, the knight,
Yes.
and you tell somebody, oh, this doesn't have to be a man; it can also be a woman. It's just
Yeah.
their qualities.
Mm.
And people who don't know the tarot go like, it's strange. So yeah, actually, do we need genders in these cards? Is something I was wondering about. But then, as you say, it's symbolic. We attach something to female qualities, to women, and something to men. And this is probably expressed, but perhaps, and this is something which your deck might do, or the Modern Witch, is in the 21st century, we will look differently at male and female. And this is why we need new tarots, perhaps.
I think particularly the Modern Witch is a really good example of a new wave of decks in that I think probably as we progress, I think increasingly the actual sex of the person on the card, I think, will become less relevant.
Yeah.
But actually in a way that affirms us all. You know, at the moment it's interesting because the first time one of my female friends, a close friend who's a really adept tarot reader, she started reading the cards in 1972, and the first time I gave her a copy of the Sun Tarot, she looked horrified. She says, "Where's the women? It's all men." And I kind of felt for her. For me, this deck, it kind of has a play. Oh, hang on, it's that way. We were talking. Just an apology to anyone. I'm seeing a mirror image of myself on this screen, so if I kind of hold things up in the wrong direction or out of camera, just bear with me. So
I'm fine. As long as you put it in front of your camera and people will see it well. You know where your camera is.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
So I think with this deck, it's not for everyone. Mm-hmm. And even for the people that use this deck and gain from it richly, even like myself, I love working with this deck because it's very, very close to my heart, but I also love returning to my other deck, the Healing Light Tarot, because that represents traditional, it's more traditional in its depiction of the genders of the cards. So I think there's a place for both, and I'm also a very firm believer in variety. I don't have the Modern Witch yet, but I'm looking forward to working with it precisely because it's virtually all female. That will, again, it throws it all up in the air and really makes you look at the archetypes in a different way. But for the Sun Tarot, for me, it helped me to affirm my own identity, give me a sense of self-acceptance, accept through creating these images to accept my feminine side and my masculine side as an integral part of my maleness.
Yeah, we will go through this in a moment. Just Avon Scout sends you love from Berlin and says he loves the Sun Tarot. It helped me a lot. And Kirsten is mentioning that Amber and the Amber and the Aura Tarot are also very female. I don't know either of them, I have to say.
No, I don't. So that's wonderful. I'll check those out.
Okay. Another thing, just while we're talking about tarot and gender, is that many people now, for example, Carrie Paris does this a lot. She always gives the option in her decks, for example, the lovers in a male version, in a female version, in a heterosexual version, and we have a lot of oracle cards where you can now choose the main person, two male, two female, whatever. I'm sure at one point there will be transgender as well.
It's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine, Martin, again, who was somebody I met through Eclectic years ago. Mm-hmm. And he just bought a Lenormand deck a couple of days ago, and when we were Skyping, he was showing me because when I've also published two Lenormand decks, and in both I published extra male and female cards, so that you can interchange them depending on the relationship reading that you're working with. And to his surprise and to mine, when he opened this new Lenormand deck, the male and female cards were actually genderless, and they were just named the querent and the partner.
Interesting.
And I thought that's just really, it's good, because it makes the deck more universal and easier for people to use. But I mean, for me, one of my big inspirations before I designed the Sun Tarot was when I bought Stevie Postman's Cosmic Tribe Tarot, because that was the first deck. This was even before I'd encountered Lee or Patrick's gay decks. That was the first deck I'd ever seen that actually had 3 versions of the Lover's card. So there was a male and female version, a female version, and a male version. And I can remember unpacking that deck and actually my heart really jolting, because all of a sudden I realised for the first time there was a depiction of me in the tarot, which I just, I haven't seen. And that really started me looking and thinking, well, is this about me, male and female, or is it about the higher reality of masculine and feminine? And then if it's about that, what do masculine and feminine mean? And for me, that took me into a whole exploration of the suits, the 4 elements, the nature of the masculine suits as, to me, I see them as something that are proactive, penetrative, whereas the feminine suits of Pentacles and Cups I see very much as receptive, connective, receiving. So again, that, having sort of re-examined the suits and the elements, it really made me go back and look at the human figures on the cards and say, well, what does that mean? What really does masculine and feminine in the tarot mean?
And actually, if we can get rid of thinking about male and female so much, it's a big discussion everywhere in society, but we would be able to see more of an individual if we are no longer reduced to male and female. Yeah. But I think this will still take a few generations. But perhaps it's happening in the age of Aquarius. Who knows?
My big shock with the Sun Tarot was I created a deck that I thought the primary audience would be gay men. And I've discovered since it was published that it's got an equally large audience with women.
Well, you like to look at men.
They're lovely men, incidentally.
Exactly. I'm going to show the pics we have prepared, because I think the first one, the Mystic, is such a nice man.
Yes.
I hope you out there can all see this. Perhaps I can even make it a bit bigger, but I just don't want to go over Chris too much.
You position it and I'll then reposition myself.
Yeah, I think like this people can look at it. The Mystic you said is your variation of the High Priestess, right?
Yeah. Now this was kind of one of the first big crossroads cards for me when I was creating the deck, because I knew I'd sort of begun, what was the first card I created? Ironically, the first one I did was the 3 of Swords, because I had a very, very clear idea of what I wanted to create. But the Mystic was the first time where I'd sort of taken one of the female characters of the major arcana and then had to really look and say, with all of these cards, when I created this deck, the question I was really asking was, if I put myself in this tarot deck, what would I look like? Or if it was a gay man staring out of this card, what would he be doing and what would he look like? So in this instance, the High Priestess, I avoided terms like Priestess and Queen in the deck, not because there would have been anything wrong in using them, but I very consciously wanted to select very male terms. Now, the title of this got changed time and time again as I kind of grapple with this, and one thing I would say is this is my very personal take on this card, so maybe I should have left him nameless and let people put their own name on him, I don't know. But for me, I thought about what the Priestess would look like as a man, and that was the only title that really sounded convincing to me, and I kind of saw him coming out of the waters. It always intrigued me with the Rider-Waite card, where if you look just beyond the veil, you get this hint of a lake behind the priestess and the pillars. So I kind of wanted to show that, but behind a veil. And obviously the duality pillars I wanted to show with the two masculinity symbols on, because that to me represented the dynamic very often that goes on within a gay relationship. You know, there is still duality there. You know, just the very complementarity of partners will lead to duality. And I wanted him with his hands outstretched, because to me, if I was encountering this male priest or priestess in my visions, I always felt he was at a distance, but at the same time he was inviting me to step between the pillars. But also with a lot of the design elements I put in were inspired by the Thoth priestess. Certainly the veil made out of rays of light.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of this, yeah.
And the crescent moons. Mm-hmm. But to me, the moons were the key symbol, because you're into the realm of the moon and water. You're very much in the feminine realm. So the mystic for me was my attempt to show what happens when a man actually dares to connect with his intuitive, his divine, that part of himself that actually connects with the unknown, which toxic masculinity actually very often doesn't allow for. You know, and we're certainly not allowed to, you know, I suppose what this card brought to me is that sort of modern society has a very toxic view of what men should be, and we're not allowed to express our spiritual side, or, you know, our mystical side, or the side of us that comes from the feminine.
Yeah.
That might reveal feminine mysteries, you know, even if it's just something inside when we connect with ourselves. So that was the mystic. I don't think I've explained him very well, and I probably only scratched the surface of the archetype of the High Priestess, but that was kind of my attempt at the time to do that and show what would happen if the High Priestess channels herself through a man.
I really like the way with a circle which is created, because usually it's more very straight, the card, and angular. This is very soft. I really like this.
If you want to laugh, sometimes poor Photoshop technique actually leads to brilliant visual breakthroughs, because of course I hadn't thought. I photographed my model with his arms outstretched, and then all of a sudden when I was doing the card I thought, oh God, where's the scroll? And then I realised that, you know, my Photoshop at that time was not good enough to create a convincing scroll. And ironically, it was at that stage you then think to yourself, well, how am I going to do this? And that was kind of when I got the vision of the spinning wheel with the Torah letters in it, and showing the scroll as a spiral. So it's kind of something a lot more, it's not as specific. But in a funny way, when I put that disc in there, in place of the scroll, again I thought the fact that it's ambiguous, but it kind of shows that sort of labyrinth or spiral of mysteries.
Yeah, so I think it's great. I really like this. He looks a bit like the Ice King from Game of Thrones.
The funny thing is, he's really warm and gentle in real life.
Of course.
I was quite surprised when I showed him that image. You know, what I did with the Sun Tarot was I used only a small number of models. So actually on the next card, the Bountiful, you'll see the same man.
Okay.
But I had a specific reason for doing that. What I wanted to show is that the archetypes will express themselves in different ways through the same person.
Just let me put in the Bountiful. It's the Empress now?
This is the Empress, yeah. So this was a really healing card for me to do, because the Empress, I mean, for me, has always been two things. She's that wild creative force and that wild fertility force, but then I've always seen something quite gentle and benign about her as well, and that's the conflict in the card. Nature can be wild, but it's also rich, bountiful, fertile, hence the title, The Bountiful, because, again, I wanted to show that, men always have this, the kind of toxic masculinity that I was reared with always has men, being tough, dominant, protective, they're the hunter-gatherers, they protect their family, but there is none of the sort of gentle, creative and fertile side, which, is in men. It's expressed in a different way to how it's expressed through women, obviously, but it is there, and that's what I wanted to show. And I think, maybe a lot of, toxic masculinity would find this card quite difficult to deal with, because a guy crowned with with sparkling stars, and
David Bowie would like it.
Bowie would like it. It's fabulous. I hope he would have liked it anyway. But, yeah, this is I think what I learned from doing this was that, that's it, was that men can be, to me the essence of the Empress is incredible power allied with gentleness, and that's what I wanted to show with the Bountiful. Yeah. That this is, you can be, actually to be powerful, you also have to learn to be gentle, and that's what the Empress taught me. I think in a way the Empress is a more dangerous card than the Emperor, because nature can be incredibly nurturing and cosseting and warm and nourishing one minute, but it can be so destructive the next. Again, there is this toxic hierarchy within the traditional view of gender, that male is paramount, but actually, my God, no. I think, as the more I've lived with the archetypes of the Empress and the Emperor, I realise that they are more than a match for each other, but just in very different ways. So yeah, that was my male take on the Empress. The Bountiful, because all I could think of when I was titling this card was the fruitfulness, and there's my lover's card.
Exactly. Yeah. Just before we go to the lovers, John Sorbo from Florida says hi.
Oh, hi, John.
And he says that he has had this deck for several years now and absolutely loves it, and he thanks you a lot.
That's wonderful to hear. That's actually, it's when people tell me things like that, that is what, this deck is not my best seller, of course, it never will be, because it's a niche deck, but it's the one that's closest to my heart. And actually, the times when I get feedback back like that from gay men, that's when I think, yeah, this was worth doing, and it also means, because in some ways it was quite a selfish project. This was me exploring myself. I didn't actually expect it to get published in the way that it did.
This is how art happens, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So who is this guy in the back of the lover's card?
The guy in the background of the lover's card is, once again, the same guy that we see on the majority of the other mages. He's a lovely gentleman called Will, incidentally. I
meant more as a symbol, actually.
As a symbol, yeah. It's the reason I mention Will's name is because I'm kind of in awe. He managed to kind of capture all the different aspects of what I wanted without even realising he was doing it. As a symbol, I've based this on the Thoth card, and when you look at the Thoth card, you kind of see this divine figure residing over the lovers, and that's what I modelled in my cards. So, incidentally, I kind of want to give a shout out for my models on these cards. They all model for free. Now, a couple of these guys were either retired models or professional life models, and the guy on the right is a lovely a guy called Brendan, who was life modelling to pay for his PhD, and he basically said he would model for me for free as long as I gave him a couple of Photoshop lessons in return, so that's how we did it. So, but yeah, I wanted to show the divine figure residing over the lovers. You've got the plus and minus signs again to show that, the kind of complementarity and duality that you see in a heterosexual relationship is also there within a same-sex relationship, or indeed any relationship. You know, what attracts us to a person very often is the fact that they are our complement, or that they are our opposite. I've also, that's for the same reason I included the heart and the spade at the top of the card. The playing card symbols that to me represent that duality in the same way. So this was...
Sorry, I'm just looking for the heart and spade.
Just on either side of the top.
I see it now.
You can see them? Yeah. So this was the most cathartic card for me, because putting this into context, I actually began designing this deck in 2005. So the world has moved on hugely since then. I think the Sun Tower is less radical now than it was the year it was designed, which is a good thing. But yeah, it was... The Lovers says exactly what a standard Lovers card says, but it was just my way of actually, if I'm honest, validating myself by designing that card. In the same way I felt validated when I saw the Cosmic Tribe Lovers card, male Lovers card.
Yeah.
That was for me just celebrating that actually we as gay men could be there, and latterly now, going back to the Modern Witch Tarot and all decks that kind of play with the characters in a gender way, it's showing that actually there is room for everyone in the tarot. Yeah. So the Lovers, the Lovers card just had a very simple message to it, and that's it.
I'm just going through the comments here. Joe Watkins says your deck looks amazing. Christine Petter, I don't understand, Christine. When is able to say the deck's deck? Can you rephrase this? I don't know what you mean. Monica says the Lovers is a very emotional card, very lovely to look at, we have now shown a few images of the Sun Tarot, and actually people are really commenting a lot. They really like what you're doing, Chris. You can be very proud of yourself. But now we're switching to the Healing Tarot.
The Healing Light Tarot, yeah.
Which is from 2017.
This is 2017, and I have the box here. So this is...
Oh, sorry, I will put this away again.
Hang on, am I going in the right... there we go.
Yes, very good. And in front of the camera.
This is published by Lo Scarabeo.
Okay.
So this was my... Actually, some of you might see it online like that, because it's got a lovely reversible box. So this was following the Sun Tarot. This kind of fulfilled my ambition to create a traditional deck, but again, what I explored in this one was this symbol, the symbol of the mandala, the Vesica Piscis, which you see very often in sacred art. So the two overlapping circles, which are representative of opposites uniting. So ironically, I didn't realise when I did the Healing Light I was in a way subliminally carrying on the theme of gender, because the mandala actually is a very powerful symbol of that, the uniting of opposites. And so every card has a mandala in it, and I've kind of tried to place it where it might suggest, because a mandala will always symbolise healing, so the placement of the mandala on the card, I hope, will always symbolise to people where that healing can be found. So in the case of the High Priestess... Sorry,
I'm just looking for the mandala.
She's actually emerging out of the mandala.
Yeah, I can see down there, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So, you can see from this that, even just comparing it to the Mystic card from the Sun Tarot, there's so much that is universal. Okay, I changed the sex of the figures. Obviously, with the Healing Light Tarot, this is much more traditional, but the themes are the same. And funny enough, I carried through the theme of the sphere and the disc into my design for the Priestess here, because I love the symbol of the scroll, in the Rider-Waite. But what I wanted to show here was almost the Priestess reaching up to touch that unseen reality and to sort of, touch that sort of divine mystery and reality.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I really like it. People out there are asking where you can get the deck. You said probably on Amazon.
Yeah, if you can, both the Healing Light Tarot and the Sun Tarot are available on Amazon. I know the Sun Tarot is getting a little bit difficult to get hold of, but it's also, if you're in the UK, and I think you can probably order from Europe as well, it's also available on sites like Book Depository. Type it into Google Shopping and the Sun Tarot will come up. The Healing Light Tarot is much easier to get hold of. That again, it's available on Amazon, but it's available on a lot of outlets because Lo Scarabeo have got quite extensive distribution. It's available through Llewellyn in the States as well. So,
Christine, it's the first one we showed was the Sun Tarot, and this one we're showing right now is the Healing Light Tarot.
The Healing Light Tarot, yeah.
Okay, so here is the Empress.
So here's my traditionally female Empress, and this was, again, I didn't realise when I began the Healing Light Tarot, this was actually a really therapeutic journey for me. Because with the last deck I'd done, I'd obviously explored all those figures through a male lens, whereas actually coming face to face with these figures in their traditional form, it was good for me to reconnect with the Empress as a woman. My first tarot journey had been about discovering aspects of her within myself and helping other gay men, or actually indeed other straight men, to do the same. The Sun Tarot is primarily a gay deck, but then I think it's also, a lot of it is applicable to straight men too. Whereas with this, I was coming face to face with the female power again, and
sorry.
No, you're fine.
I keep interrupting.
I talk a lot, so actually, if you need to stop me, just...
I would never say this, Chris. What I really like about this, also with the High Priestess, is that it's kind of shadowy. There's more focus on what's happening around and enlightening this, and so whether it's male or female doesn't really matter, because it's more a shadowy influence.
I also wanted to create figures where you couldn't see the facial expression.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a vision quest or a path working journey, when you encounter these figures, the expression is, that's for you to discover within your own inner journey.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favourites. This is the Strength card from the Healing Light Tarot.
It's amazing.
I found this fabulous etching online of a female Atlas figure, and this is, I love the traditional depictions where the woman is either holding the jaws of the lion open or she's gently prizing them closed. But what I wanted to, when I saw the female Atlas depiction, I thought I wanted to include that. Now, I also wanted to show the duality of strength, the fact that strength as an inner force has both a conscious and an unconscious aspect to it, hence the two figures. And I also wanted to depict inner strength as this blazing fiery globe containing the lion. So in a way, they're both upholding the virtue of strength, but they're also containing it within the globe.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different, and obviously the mandala is placed again at the foot of the card, and they're emerging from it. So I kind of wanted to show that inner fire, inner determination.
Like the lion really doing something for a change instead of being behaved.
It's kind of a bit fierce as well, because don't get me wrong, I love the Rider-Waite depiction, but it's a very cuddly lion.
Yeah.
And this one very definitely isn't. It's you can get burnt with this one.
People are really loving this card as well. I get a lot of comments. Later you have to go through all the comments because
I will.
People are commenting a lot. We have one more from this deck, which is we have two more. I'm just browsing a bit quicker through the decks.
That's fine. Just pick out what you feel.
Well, I like them all, and I think people are really liking it. So we have Temperance here.
Yeah.
John is, for example, saying that he really loves the use of Vesiapiscis.
Vesiapiscis, yeah.
Vesiapiscis, okay. And that...
I have to give credit to my friend Penny Devaney, who is the sort of adept tarot reader I was mentioning before. She introduced me to this symbol and its significance, and Penny and I ran a workshop in 2015, and really it's her influence. I have her to thank for this deck, because if she hadn't introduced me to that symbol, this deck wouldn't have happened. So with the Temperance card, obviously one sphere contains the fire symbol, the second sphere contains the water symbol, and the mandala is created by the overlapping of those two. So
I can see this. Yeah, it's really amazing. I like it a lot, Chris.
So again, it's that unification of opposites, the blend of opposites, and so.
Kirsten would like to see the moon. We don't have the moon here today, Kirsten, but I'm sure that Chris can. You can.
I can give you a quick glimpse of the moon.
Okay.
If I can actually get it in position on the screen.
And Joe wants to see the Hermit. Put it in front of the camera.
Right, so that's the moon.
Yeah, there's a little bit of light. It's a bit difficult to see it like this.
How's that? Oh, hang on. I can do this. Just bear with me a second. There we go.
Yeah, better. But you have to put it, to hold it in front of your face. Then you're sure. And come closer.
Oh God! If you wonder why we're having so much trouble, I'm also on a time delay. I see this half a second after.
Yeah, but I think it would be better. Kirsten and Joe who wants to see the Hermit. We will put the images later into the commentary, but because I think it's not doing justice to the lovely images like this.
But we'll post them later.
Yeah, we will do that. Now I really would like to show you one card I found really striking, again from the Sun Tarot.
Yeah.
And you said you had a special story about this one.
Yeah. Now, with the Minor Arcana, it was kind of a different thing again, in that I was looking at life as a gay man. I was looking around me at the gay scene as I was emerging into it, and then trying to find parallels with the cards. And this was kind of one of the more uncomfortable parallels, and I have to kind of point 2, 3 fingers back at myself as well as pointing them out. I used the Five of Swords to represent something that I saw on the gay scene, because the Five of Swords I've always seen as showing the victor and the vanquished, and there is a kind of pride about the victor at the forefront, and then a dejection about the vanquished figures at the back. And this is kind of something that I saw on the gay scene, and there is a kind of, one of the things I found about myself and a lot of gay men is that we've been on the defensive for so long that very often that defensive nature that had protected us in some circumstances, we didn't know how to turn it off. And this is when it would turn destructive, and I often saw that manifesting in a lot of bitchiness and backbiting within the gay scene, a lot of cruelty to each other, and that's what I wanted to depict in this card. So this one caused quite a bit of shock when I first put the deck out there, because I don't think anyone expected to be seeing obscene gestures. Obviously the one finger gesture is but I thought I wanted something that would shock, that would again, I think very often we can romanticize the cards, and with this I did something very blunt that would immediately unromanticize it and actually show that, when we have arguments, when we say nasty things to each other, when we put each other down, and particularly in the context of the gay scene, we're actually doing harm to each other rather than good. And one of the messages I wanted to come from this card is that, we should be looking after each other. rather than putting each other down. And that's not saying that's something unique to the gay scene, but it was something at the time that I saw, and I've got to be honest, it's something that I too have been guilty of. So there's a message within this card that actually sometimes a lot of people can actually be defending themselves because they've been hurt before in the past, but actually when this card comes up, it's saying, well, maybe it's time to let your guards down and actually be a little bit more caring, but also a little bit more vulnerable yourself. So yeah, that's the story behind that.
I think it's brilliant because the Five of Swords, you could easily imagine this guy in the front doing this. It's quite befitting. People feel, Evan says again, this Sun Tarot is so real, and he really appreciates it. So I think you did everything right. We can finish with the deck. I mean, we have loads of other cards, but I think we have to.
We can't get through them all.
We can't go through them all. I'm sure you are inspired enough out there. But on a lighter note, we can look at the Knight of Cups.
Oh yes,
because he is such a nice guy. I think
he's a lovely guy in real life, and when I photographed him, I knew that he was my knight. But it's funny. The Knight of Cups in a traditional deck, you see the kind of knight in shining armour on the horse with the cup, and I wanted to show something more human. Again, a lot of gay men are frightened to bare their hearts. So if I'm honest, I keep mine covered by talking a lot. As you might have noticed, I don't allow myself to be vulnerable easily. I don't allow myself to be vulnerable in relationships easily. And I wanted to show something two-sided on this. The Knight of Cups, obviously there is the sincerity of the Knight of Cups, who is offering you love, who is offering to connect, but at the same time, if you view the heart in his hand as if he's externalized his heart, he's made himself incredibly vulnerable, and that heart is something very bright, but at the same time it's also something very fragile. And that's what I wanted to show. If you compare it to the Knight of Wands, who is bright, fiery, sexual, this knight is offering something very real and very authentic. And again, I wanted men to kind of take this card and actually allow themselves to connect with that emotional authenticity and that vulnerability, but actually realise that does not diminish you as a man. In fact, that's what makes you a strong man. If you can be brave enough to be that vulnerable, that means that you've learned what strength is about. So that's my Knight of Cups.
Yeah, I really like it. It reminds me a bit, I hope you're not angry about this, of the Jean-Paul Gaultier commercial.
I'm not angry, no. Oh, that's a compliment. I like that one.
Okay. I like Jean-Paul Gaultier commercials.
He's wonderful.
I was also reminded a bit, it's not totally the same style, but what came to mind today when I was looking at this with you was Jim Jarmusch. You probably know him, obviously, but...
no, I don't.
You don't know Jim Jarmusch?
No.
Am I in the right... film is Jim Jarmusch? No, sorry, I didn't mean Jim Jarmusch. I meant Derek Jarman.
Oh, Derek Jarman.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's an even better compliment. you can come again.
Okay. I was thinking you must know him because I really loved his films, like Caravaggio, for example, is one of my favorite films. And I was reminded, though it's not really in there, but of this aesthetics he created. So I really like this.
I got to do a pilgrimage to Derek Jarman's house for the first time.
Okay.
Just over 12 months ago before lockdown, so that's actually that's quite touching. Yeah. I'm
a Piscean, sometimes I touch.
Oh my God.
No, but no, so I think we covered quite a bit. I'm just looking at the comments again. John is very happy that you explain the decks, what's behind it, and the process, your creative process. So people are really happy about this talk here, I have the impression. So it's a good time to talk about future projects. Currently you are working on, let me say it, the Oracle of the Hecatian Path.
That's right, and this is a kind of big departure for me. I was very lucky. I was approached by a lovely guy called Ken Payne, who through the process of this project has become a very good friend. He wanted to create a goddess deck basically devoted to Hecate. So this was totally new territory to me. What we've created is a 60 card deck. We are pitching this to publishers at the moment, so any publishers watching and you like the look of what we've done, please contact us. This has been a wonderful project for me. I'm always a little bit wary of going into creative collaborations because I'm not an easy person to work with, but Ken and I actually just clicked. He kind of gets my particular brand of madness and can be patient with it and work with it, and I'm just very, very proud of what we've created. This is me illustrating to somebody else's direction, because obviously this is a tradition that is completely different from the traditions I've followed. But then that's been one of the joys for me, because it takes you into areas that you wouldn't have previously gone into. So yeah, the deck is finished. Ken has completed the little white book to go with it, and is currently expanding that to a wider text, should we need it, depending on which format it gets published in. So yeah, these are just different samples from the deck.
How many cards in this deck?
There's 60 cards in this deck, and they all show aspects of the goddess, or aspects of various deities that are associated with Hecate. I've got to say, the response that we've had to this has been really exciting. We were sort of asking, we were putting feelers out and sending samples to various different deck artists and writers within this field to get feedback, and we've got about 17 or 18 endorsements from either fellow deck artists or authors, which was really encouraging for us. And we've kind of put sample images out around the Hecate community. Luckily for me, Ken is involved within a Hecatean coven, so there's also been a lot of female input into this deck, because that was my concern. There's two men doing a goddess deck, but thankfully Ken's closest friends within the coven are all women, so they've had a lot of input into the imagery and what have you. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I kind of feel a bit of a cheat because I've already got a copy. At the moment there's only, I think there's is it 3 or 4 copies of this in existence? These are test copies. So again, it's allowed us to work with the deck and then decide if we need to make any additions or revisions. So yeah, it's in development. We're looking for a publisher, and being the shameless art tart that I am, I'm open to all offers, basically.
Very good. So Kirsten, this answers your question whether you can buy it in Germany. It's not out yet, but I'm sure you will be able. Is on your website something for a newsletter? Do you have a newsletter or something where you keep people updated?
What I do is any updates people can either get from my own personal Facebook page, or if you join my tarot page on Facebook called The Sacred Tarot, and also from my YouTube channel. So I will actually be reviving my blog in the new year. So that's another place for any updates. But yeah, if there's any news on this, just be assured it'll go out on social media as soon as we've got it. So yeah.
I was wondering, when you were saying this, I personally really would like a new god deck, because there are many god decks around which is focusing on male gods, because I don't know any deck with male gods. It's always female goddesses. So whenever you have the time to create something like this, I would be very happy.
Really throwing the gauntlet down on that one, love. We might have to think about
because
that.
it's boring to always. I can never do with a male customer. I can do goddesses, but I think they should have their gods. I want a Thor and Loki and.
What's that deck that Schiffer have just put out? Because I think Kim Huggins has just worked on some sort of god tarot, hasn't she?
I
think.
I don't know.
That's really got me thinking, because I wouldn't have thought of that. But actually, I mean, I've got to be honest. Which way am I going? I'm going that way. I had
wrong way.
Oh, this mirroring. I had such a wonderful time working on this that, you know, it would be lovely to actually go back into the realm of deities again. You know, most of everything I've done so far, bar this, has been traditional tarot or Lenormand, and I must admit, doing a foray into a goddess oracle was a real joy. So we must talk, darling.
Yes, so, John agrees with me that a male god deck would be perfect. Please think about it.
I will definitely.
You can do a Kickstarter campaign. I will sign. I promise.
I'm a Kickstarter virgin. That's the problem. Now, I'm in total admiration of anyone who sees a Kickstarter campaign through, because I've seen with friends who do it just what utter hard work and how complex it is. So anyone out there who has Kickstarted and self-published their deck, you know, I am just in total admiration, because it's, you know,
amazing. Last week we just talked about the Oracolarium by Andrea and Neil, and they did a Kickstarting campaign for this.
I just got my copy.
I'm just waiting for it. I ordered it immediately afterwards because I was so impressed. I have to order your decks as well, I have to say. And people out there are saying they have to order your decks. Avon is saying that Gods and Titans exists by Stacy DeMarco. I've never heard of this, Avon. I will look into this. Thank you.
Yeah, because I've heard of this but not seen it. Okay. So actually, thanks for reminding me of that, because that's one I need to look at. Yeah.
Anyways, we're coming to a close now, because otherwise I will sit here with Chris for 24 hours. We're getting on really good.
You know, I think we talk too much if we sat here for any longer, because, you know, that's not you talk as much as I do. I like it.
You inspire me, Chris. Chris and Kirsten, it's perfect. But Chris, you also wanted to talk about your tarot course, so please tell us about this.
What I've been doing over lockdown, I mean, my passion, I love to read, but my passion is to teach people to read for themselves and to kind of enable people to read. So if you're interested, do look at my YouTube channel, which is called, the channel is called The Sacred Tarot. I spent lockdown filming a 33 lesson complete tarot course. So basically going from scratch to hopefully becoming a competent reader. So yeah, it's all up there. It's called Learn Tarot with Chris Butler. It's on my YouTube channel called The Sacred Tarot. And I mean, obviously for most people who'll be watching this, I'll be preaching to the converted, but at the same time, you might find something in there that you'll find interesting, or you'll have a laugh at. But if you know anyone who wants to learn tarot, point them towards my channel, because it's all there. So
yeah, Evan is still complimenting you on your deck, that it has influenced all gay decks that came after. I can't judge because I don't know so many gay decks.
Well, I can't judge, but I hope, I do hope it's kind of given something positive, and luckily, the feedback that I've got has been positive, which actually makes me feel really, really good about having it put it out there. But no, it's lovely to hear, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, people out there, you can go through the comments later, all enthused about your decks and your images, and I'm very happy that I had the chance to talk to you, because people in Germany, I'm sure, were not aware of these lovely tarots, and I'm very happy that they are now here in Europe as well.
And this has been a joy for me, because it was funny. One of the things with the tarot conference, obviously we both spoke at the UK Tarot Conference this year, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
The fact that it was online, it was lovely that it went ahead, but I was watching certain talks, yours included, and thinking, these are people that if I'd have been there, I would have spent time with. And I must admit, with your talk, I thought, I like this woman. I want to get to know her. So,
thank you, Chris.
so this has been really good fun. It's just been, and thanks for asking me. It's been great.
Yeah, of course. This is. I'm happy when people talk with me, because I want to do it every week, and I'm really hoping that we can meet up in London next October.
Hopefully, yes, and do stay in touch in the meantime, because
we definitely will. I'm going to go to your YouTube site now and ring the bell, as they say.
And we're definitely going to talk. We're going to talk God oracles as well.
We will. Yes, please do that. I'm just saying, many thanks, blah, 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 wonderful session. Everybody's happy. We're happy. As you can see, the sun is going down in Germany.
Yes.
It's
the
4 o'clock.
Here it's raining, but I'm very happy all the same.
Okay. So we will be back at one point, perhaps when the Hecatian Path Oracle is out. We can do another session.
That would be lovely.
And until then, I'll leave you to it. Next week, the talk will be in German, so this is not good for people who only speak English, but I come back with English talks here, and it has been a pleasure, and I'm very happy that so many people have been watching us.
It's been a joy, love. Thank you, and thank you to everyone that's tuned in. It's just great to hear your feedback.
Have a great time out there. Bye.
Thanks to everyone. Bye-bye.